So last time I demonstrated how to get a game up and running on Synaptop. Today I will demonstrate how to use some of the functions provided with the Synaptop API. So here's the project I had from last time. I had this very lovely ball over here, which I expanded to have a few different animation frames. This is so that I can demonstrate networking. I'm going to have a couple of buttons in here that are going to change the color of the ball. So, do button blue. And let's make the text blue. So pressing that button will make the ball blue. And I'll make buttons for the other two as well. Okay, so here I am. I have 3 buttons. Now I'm going to add events to make the ball change to the color the button tells it to. So, blue. On clicked. Add action. Ball. Next. Set animation frame to frame 0, which is the blue frame. Copy this here and change it to green. On clicked, set animation frame to 1, which is green. And on clicked for orange, clicked, set animation frame to 2. So now we have a ball which should change its animation frames when we click it. So I'm going to export the project and test that out on Synaptop. Okay, so I have uploaded the files. Now I will go into Developer, to the application, and launch it. So, I still have the hello world here. One thing I added was I added a loop to the ball so that it'll stay on the screen. So now, tell it to be green, tell it to be orange, looks good. Tell it to be blue again, wonderful. Now, I will change it so that if you have somebody playing this game with you, this very complex interactive game, that if you tell it to be green, their ball will turn green as well. So, to do this, we need to add an event to each of these clicks and broadcast a message, which will be sent to all recipients, telling them what color we want the ball to be. So, we send a message such as color 0, or changing it to blue. Color 1, whenever you change it to orange or green, and color 2 whenever you change it to orange. And then on the other end, they're going to have to receive this message. So you choose receive message, and then you're going to have to figure out what color you want it to be. So let's add a sub-event and add a condition here. This condition is compare two values because the message that we're receiving will be a string. So the first value is going to be 0 because we're testing to see if it's blue. And the second value is the string that we're receiving, and it's going to be the token at D. So this is a very useful function for parsing strings. So the first value is the text that we are parsing, and this text is Synaptop API dot last message to get the last message that was received by receive message. And then the index is the number of times that this little character over here is seen before our message. So that is index 0, that is index 1. So we want index 1. And the separator is that little character there. So this should give us 0 if the message is color line 0, and it should give us 1 if the message is color line 1. Except it will give us it as a string. So let's convert it into an integer so the computer knows that that is indeed 0. And we'll create a couple more sub-events over here which look exactly the same, except for this one is if the color is 1 and if the color is 2. Now, if the color is 0, then set the animation frame to 0. If it's 1, set 1, and if it's 2, let's set it to 2. And export the project. Okay, here I am again, and I have exported the project and uploaded it to the website. So we are going to want to set sharing to enabled because we are now going to have 2 players playing this game. So now I'm going to launch the app. So here we go. Get rid of that hello world, and we can make it blue, green, or orange. And no one else is following us right now. So let's invite somebody. Here's my good friend Robert. And he over here will accept the invitation and start playing this wonderful game with us. So if he says green, then our circle turns green. If we say orange, then his circle turns orange. And if he says blue, then our circle turns blue. So it looks like this is working. Now let's go back to construct and get rid of this hello world message because it is starting to get annoying. Okay. So one thing that we might want to do is figure out who is currently playing this game. I mean, we invited them, and we can tell by seeing who's connected, but we might want to know who in the code is playing so that we can say player 7 is over there or something like that. So how we do that is we figure out some way to store the data, such as an array. So we'll insert a new object, an array of players. And let's have the height be 2 and the width be 1 for right now, because there's one player. And that player is ourselves, so an event that on the system on the start of the layout will tell the system that players set at XY, or the X is 0 for the first player, the Y will be RID, so Synaptop AI dot user number. So now, and we'll set players X equals 0, Y equals 1. We'll set the value to our name. So Synaptop AI user name. Except over here it should be X is 0, Y is 0, value is our number. So now this looks good, but what might happen is construct might load before Synaptop is ready to use its API, so we'll check for that and say Synaptop API on API loaded, copy these and paste them over here. So now that no matter which one of these happens first, it will have the correct data in the player list. Now, the other person might want to know our data too. So we'll add an action to each of these, which says broadcast, and the message will be player data of player, and then we'll add players dot at 0 and the divider and players dot at 1. So here we are, and we'll send the player data when we start up. First players at, I guess that should be at 0, 0, and at 0, 1. And now we need to receive this. So over here, where we're receiving messages, let's add a sub event, and let's see system compare two values. If the first value is equal to color, and the value being token at laptop last message, position 0, divider. So if it's color, then we check out to see what the next number is and set the ball color. However, if with the first message is player data, we need to do something else here. So let's put the player data in. So set at xy at x0, y0, the value should be the token at Synaptop last message 1, because we have location 0 is player data, location 1 is player at 0, 0, and location 2 is player at 0, 1. Except we don't want to set the same location, because then it'll be overwriting the data for the player that's right there. So the X location, let's make it the number of subscribers. So if you start the game, then we should set players at 0, 0 to your user number and players at 0, 1 to your first name. And then if you add somebody to the game, then the position at 1, 0 should be their player number, and the position at 1, 1 should be their first name. Now, just in case that they join multiple times, or if both of these should happen to run, we should add another condition over here to make sure that their number is not already in the array. So, players contains value. If they contain the value of their number, which is token at API dot last message 1, the divider, then this will run, so let's invert that. So if it does not already contain their number, then it adds their number. Now we should actually display this in some way, so that we're not just storing invisible numbers. So let's insert a text box, because text boxes are really fun. Text player name. Insert this over here. That's that. Now when we start up, let's add a new action over here to set players' names text to your name. So this is players dot at 0, 0. And when you receive a message, then let's add a little loop in here, and let's loop through players for each element in the X we will loop through, and so let's start by setting the text to nothing, and then loop through and append the text. So here we go. And the text that we want is players at loop index, so that we can loop through it, and it'll be players at 0 the first time and players at 1 second time. And 1 is the index for our name in the array, and then a new line token to space out the names a bit. Another thing that we need is to send the information back. This time sending the information of the player who just received it. So what happens is player 1 starts up the application and gets their own information, then invites player 2. So when they invite player 2 gets their own information and sends it back to player 1. So now player 1 has both informations, and they need to send their own information over to player 2. So when player 1 gets the information, this calls to send their information back to player 2. And player 2 gets the information, they send their information back to player 1, but player 1 does not receive the information because they already have the information in the array. So let's export this. So here we are. I've uploaded the website, so let's go and launch the application and invite our good friend Robert. So here's our name as we got the information. Goes up with Robert. He's got his name. So what the problem is here is that we have not set the array's width. So the width should be Synaptop AI dot number of subscribers plus 1, because you don't subscribe to yourself. Export this and see how this goes over. So I re-uploaded it now with that little change. Add a friend. He gets the information, we get both, and he doesn't get both. Perhaps it's because I have not cleared my cache. So I am going to delete the browsing history and try again. So let's try again. So there we go. It worked. Now both people know that um, both us and my good friend Robert are in the game. If we tell it to be green, both of them become green. If we tell it to be orange, both of them become orange. If we tell it to be blue, both of them become blue. Now I will demonstrate how to throw in a question in the game, just in case we wanted to ask the player a question. Going back to construct, we add blue. Now on blue clicked, let's add an action, which is Synaptop API prompt question. And we ask them You want the ball to turn blue? Question mark. And we'll give this question an ID, which is going to be blue question mark. And then we'll create a new event, which is Synaptop API, when a question is answered. So when they say yes or no, then yes or no to which ID? To blue question mark. Then this event will happen. And so when they answer yes or no, then we will set the ball to blue. However, if they say yes, we'll set the ball to blue, and if they say no, we'll set the ball to blue. So we're not being very nice here. Because they said, no, they do not want the ball to be blue. So let's add in another condition, answer. This returns true if the question was answered yes. So if a question is answered and the question was answered yes, then we will turn the ball to blue. Otherwise, nothing will happen. So let us export this. And here we are. Launch the application, invite our friend. Now, if we tell the ball to be green, it'll be green, and we can tell it to be orange, and it'll be orange. But if we ask it to be blue, then it will warn us about this terrible mistake and ask us if we actually want it to be blue. If we say yes, then we'll get a blue ball. However, let's turn it back to orange over here, and then ask it to be blue, and say no. Now we still have an orange ball. I hope this tutorial was informative, and don't hesitate to ask me any questions. Good luck and have fun.